Hey guys, if you've ever seen a Ferrari playing chess, well, you did it sooner than me because in this game, this is the first time I've ever seen a Ferrari playing chess, and as you may have surmised from the two player names at the top and the bottom, that this was a win for White. Where White beat a player rated nearly 300 points higher rated than him using my suggested line of a Scotch Gambit. Of course, I'm not saying, that he's using my course for it, because obviously, he played the game before I'd even released the course, but still used the same recommendation of E5 Scotch Gambit style. And after 94, actually, this game features a line that I thought I'd mention sort of as an aside in my main course, because this line with bishop c5 and castles, where black sacrifice the pawn is not very common. You're going to see bishop d7 a lot more often in your games. But this is a line where I was quite honest in my course in saying that if black plays correctly, this position is basically quite fine for black, where he does get very good compensation for the pawns he's sacrificing. And yet maybe I was being a little bit too, conservative. Like sometimes it happens where you want to be, unbiased, and then you end up being biased trying to be unbiased. But seriously though, in the game, after queen d5, queen e7, because the trade of queens would be good for us when we're up material, but queen e7 was played. We cast our king to safety. This is how the game played out. And now the idea is that we're actually not going to try and hang on to our extra material. A move like knight a3, for example, is not a great square for our knight, and queen d2 is a little bit passive. So White says, you know what, you can take my pawns, and if you take, I will play queen d4, try to get my knight in d5, and still keep up the fight for the initiative. Now, is black objectively okay in this position? Absolutely. But we're the ones who are setting problems for black, and they still have to put in a little bit of hard work and precise play in order to maintain the balance. And one thing I have found as well is that, most of the times where computers are saying, yeah, you have one move here to be able to, keep the balance in the position, unless like something really obvious, like very forcing move or some capture, then yeah, your opponent's unlikely to find it all. In a game, black goes rook d8, which is actually, I think, a very good move in this position. And after queen f3, so again, if black takes on c2 a little bit early, then we can go rook d1, and we are going to get a little bit of an initiative. Black can't just take on e5 because there will be a back rank made on d8 there, so black does have a few small problems to solve. And I have to say, even though these players not so high rated, they actually played the opening like grandmasters, as black found a very nice move, knight e6, to set up a knight to d4 fork. White pressed on with the move knight d5, continuing to fight for the initiative, and after queen c5, now played the move rook f to d1 in this position. To be fair, you could make an argument for rook a d1 potentially being more harmonious, but in either case, the idea is kind of similar, that they can't take our bishop because then we're threatening a knight e7 fork, something that we definitely want to keep in mind. Black decides to go rook c2, and okay, he's managed to get back the pawns, but after bishop a4, we've now started to coordinate our pieces, and with the rook under the attack, black now has to be quite precise. And in the game, this is where he made the first mistake of actually the whole game by either player. Up to this point, both players have played pretty much perfectly, but the move rook c4 is a little bit imprecise. By the way, if you are enjoying this video, do make sure to subscribe to the channel for more like it. The move that black really needed to play here is the move knight to d4. And the idea of knight d4 is, you want to try and win the knight, and you end up with this very forcing line where I think the reason that black didn't play this is, I have a feeling he saw knight d4, but he didn't want to allow, after knight f6 takes queen f6, a perpetual check where after, say, rook d5, for example, we can go queen g5, and basically they can't really get out of the perpetual check. If they go queen e7, actually, they even get mated after queen f6, and well, it's one way to avoid the draw, but not exactly the way that black was hoping with this little sequence. So black would just have to move the king back, and it would just be, to and fro and very clear draw with moving the king and queen back and forth. So it's one good thing, like, that even if, let's say, your opponent plays all the best moves and, they make a draw, you can also ask, like, what are the odds the opponent's finding all these moves? And in this case, if you're playing a higher rated player, draw by is not such a bad result. So rook c4 does at least keep the game going. It's the best move that, isn't knight d4. But now white starts to get a bit of pressure. Rook d1 is a really nice move to kind of keep the rook stuck there and just go for the attack on c7. At this point, black played queen a3, trying, I guess, to get some kind of counterplay, but not so successfully. I mean, there's nothing terribly wrong with the move knight takes c7, but In the game, white decides to go h3, just making sure there's some luft for the king as needed, saying, well, okay, you can take on c7 later, perhaps. In the game, black decides to defend the pawn with rook d7, and this is actually his decisive mistake. What black should have done instead is probably played a move like c5. And yeah, I mean, white is still better. One approach would be to go knight e7, trade off the bishop for the knight and just say your bishop is better than their knights. And also, your king is a little safer. You've got a bit more healthy majority. White's definitely got some edge here, but it's by no means decisive. Also, I should point out, by the way, that bishop e6 is not just winning a piece, because they do have queen takes f3 and then taking the bishop, so you don't want to fall for that. But if you play some other normal move like queen b7, you are going to be a bit better here. Instead, after the rook d7, though, white does have a very nice little kill shot here, to quote the great Eminem diss. So, Eminem was dissing Machine Gun Kelly in that song, Kill Shot. Anyway, what's the kill shot for white in this position? Let me know in the comments below what you would play as white, and we'll see if you got the move right. So here, the key move is knight takes c7. And the idea of knight takes c7 is that if they take the knight, we're going to go bishop takes f7, laser beam, discovered attack, and then win the queen just like that. And likewise, rook c7, kind of the same story. They can't take because, well, you even are giving checkmate, actually, if they take the rook. So black loses the vital pawn, and not only that, but you also are threatening like to take and hit the bishop. So it's just absolute disaster for black. The game ended rook d3, knight takes c6, bishop to b7. They can't take the queen because we do have back rank mate, remember? But after bishop b7, okay, here white did miss a little tactical blow of queen b7 and still using that back rank mate to our advantage, but the move in the game, queen g4, is still completely winning. g6 is played, knight f4, just keeping everything safe when you're up a piece. And after a few more moves, e6, queen e6, take, and now rook c8, just making sure our pawn is going to queen eventually. Black just resigned in this position. So a very convincing win by white. White really didn't put a foot wrong in this game, so just a great model example of how to play when black does decide to sacrifice pawn with castles. It's a move you're not going to face very often. It's probably going to be a move you'll face more from, let's say, relatively high-rated players, but it's good to know how to deal with it. And if you remember what we looked at in this game, I'm pretty confident you will, at worst, draw the game even against a grandmaster, and even maybe have some decent chance to beat them if they overpress or just, forget the moves to black. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next training video in the channel, and until then, take care.